Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, נקבלה. שבת שלום, שבת שלום. שבת שלום ומבורך. שבת שלום, שבת שלום. שבת שלום ומבורך. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה, 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 הללויה. Hallelujah, hallelujah,
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome. I'm Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I'm joined by Leslie Zucker and Joel Krishover and our technical team. As always, thank you to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls, and to our digital docents who are managing our streaming. If you are technically inclined and would like to be part of this group, please reach out to our office and find out more, and we'll put you to work.
That's right.
So to speak.
That is right.
If you are watching us on Facebook Live, the link to the prayer book is on the PDF. You can find that in the comment section. In our virtual sanctuary, you just have to look right above the player, and all other links are in the e-news. I'm talking about the things that I've never done it myself, actually.
You know, it wasn't until Jim Kaplan said, "It's to my left." And I'm like, really? I thought it was to my right. But he actually took the time to see where it was in comparison to where we're standing.
So I don't know. It's not that I'm disconnected. It's just I'm usually not watching the service.
You're so connected. You're right there.
But for those of you who are here, or if you are at home and are using the actual prayer book, we're calling the pages in the brackets. If you're joining us on Facebook Live and like to say hello, we invite you to say Shabbat Shalom in the comments, and don't forget to click return. Obviously, those of you here can also get on Facebook Live and say Shabbat Shalom. There'll be a delay, though. You're not going to be able to, there's going to be a little...
And if you do that,
that's
why
we don't watch it. We don't watch the service when we're here because it's not synchronized. Now, if you're at home, we invite you to take down this number, 913-303-1134. That's our technical assistance line. If you have any issues with the streaming, just text that number, and one of our docents will get back to you so you can rejoin us. We welcome Shabbat together, lighting the candles on page 120. If you have candles at home, like to light them now, we invite you to do that and join us in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. We join together welcoming Shabbat on page 130. So we sing the opening lines of Psalm 95. Lechu neranena.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena al Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena al Adonai. Naria, naria, letzur ishenu, nekadma fanav betodah. Naria, naria, letzur ishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena al Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena al Adonai.
We continue together with Lecha Dodi, and we will be singing tonight all the stanzas on page 139, which is the second page. Just because, we don't have any reason.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nekavela. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nekavela. He התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בעורק וביורי, אורי, אורי שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה.
לא תבושי ולא תקלני, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, וניב נתאירתי לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה.
והיו לשמשה שושייך, ורחקו כל מעמלייך, sorry, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך ישמוס חתן. Oh, I practiced this. You know what, we're going to just start that over. I practiced this. All right, we're going to do this. I'm sorry, everyone at home. I'm sorry, everyone here. This is how we learn. והיו למשיסה. No, just sing
והיו
it.
למשיסה
סוסייך, ורחקו כל מבעלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן הקהלה, לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תעריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה, לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה.
On page 147, we prepare for the recitation of the Shema by joining together in the middle of the page. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. But let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי ניצבך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Amen. We continue together on page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטע בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטע בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom, Vehamidenu, Shomreinu lechayim, Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם. ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לאור ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש שבת שבת ויהי נפש שבת שבת ויהי נפש שבת שבת ויהי נפש Anananananana Adonai Ananananana Safatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Safatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Safatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום.
כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום.
וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
We now offer a prayer for those in need of healing. You may have access to the Misheberach list through the e-news that you received this morning. You can also follow the link in the comments. If you would like to offer names, we invite you to type them in the comments so we can all see them. And for those of you here, get an opportunity to speak loudly the names as I go around. The Misheberach we chose for this evening contains at its center the words that Moses prays so that Miriam will be healed. And the words are, Elna refana la. God, please heal her. But our version, or the version that we're singing, says, heal us. That's the difference.
רפאנו אדוני ונרפא, הושיענו וניוושע, אל קרוב לכל קרב, אך קרוב לרעב ישוע. We pray for healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength of flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole. Elna refana, oh please heal us now. רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, רפואה שלמה, heal us now, heal us now. הושיע את עמך וברך את נחלתך, וראם ונשם עד העולם. מי שברך אבותינו, מי שברך אמותינו, נא אדוני הושיענה. We pray for the healing of our people. We pray for healing of our people, for the land. We pray for healing of the land, peace for every race and nation, and peace for every race and nation, child, woman, and man, every child, every woman, every man.
הנפש ורפואת הגוף, רפואה שלמה. אל נא רפנה. Oh, please heal us now. רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, רפואה שלמה. Heal us now. Heal us now.
Heal us now.
It is now time for our Simcha moment. If you have a special Simcha joy from this past week you'd like to share, we invite you to type it in the comments line. It could be birthday, anniversary, good news, and accomplishments of all and any kind. You go ahead and start typing. For those of you here, we have a special microphone here. Do not congregate, but there's an X here. You come up here.
Mine continues to be seeing real life faces. Although I'm just like, where's the little square that you wear around your head? I don't know where all the little squares went, the frames. It's very strange to see people.
You are in Wales. Sharon and Jeff Altman, and it's our 44th wedding anniversary.
As I mentioned earlier, this week's Torah portion includes those words El Narefan a lot because there's a conflict between Moses, Aaron, and their sister Miriam. It's mostly Moses and then Aaron and Miriam on the other hand. And I wanted to share with all of you, it's a poem, prose text written by Wendy Zerler, who teaches Hebrew literature mostly at the Hebrew Union College in New York City. And her piece is called For Days Miriam Sat Outside. And this comes from the Torah, a women's commentary. And I thought maybe a women's voice will be more appropriate to read it.
Before she could utter another word, a dark cloud appeared and rumbled above Miriam and Aaron like a rebuke. When the cloud lifted as suddenly as it had appeared, the skin on Miriam's arm was covered with snow-white scales. In panic and confusion, Aaron banished her from the camp. For days, Miriam sat in exile, her arm a scaly blaze of white fire. Late on the seventh day, alone and looking uneasy, Moses appeared. Miriam remained silent, her eyes glaring. Halting, Moses began to speak. You know, sister, I never wanted this post. I tried to tell the voice in the burning bush that I was not suited for this, but God insisted. He told me to make snakes out of sticks. The voice in the bush said, if you want to see my powers as expressed in you, put your hand into your bosom and then pull it out. And there it was before me, covered in snowy scales. Don't you see? God has spoken to you too, from a cloud. Beware of what you ask, my sister. God has answered you and etched the power of prophecy onto your skin. Now you too must bear the burden of this people, whom I have neither fathered nor mothered, but nevertheless I carry on my back. Miriam looked at her arm, and behold, The scales were healed. Her arm tingling, she followed her brother Moses back to the camp. Reverently, the people waited as she gathered up her things and took her place at the head of the line.
Thank you, Leslie. We now gather our simchas, everything you have shared with us, and we offer a prayer. Divine source of blessings, we thank you for everything that enriches our lives. We turn to you now with gratitude as we share in the happiness of all those who marked their birthday, anniversary, good news, and accomplishments. Adonai, be with them now and always. May they be blessed with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow, with much health and happiness, now and always. As we honor each one of you for the gifts that you bring to our sacred community, we join together in song as we mark this sacred occasion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. And now has come the time for Ask the Rabbi. This is the May edition. No reason why, but this is just how it is. And today the topic is Jewish cooking, with the emphasis on the Jewish and less on the cooking. I'm not going to demonstrate anything, but I do want to frame it a little bit for all of you out there and in here. Start thinking your questions if you haven't already. Think for a moment, if Passover, as I believe, is the quintessential Jewish holiday, then there is no doubt that being Jewish and cooking and eating are intrinsically connected. As a matter of fact, food has been so central to the Jewish experience that when our people were wandering in the wilderness of Sinai, as we find them in this week's Torah portion, Be'ha'alotecha, complained to Moses about their situation, not by saying simply, we're tired, are we there yet? We are hot, we are thirsty. What was their complaint? We are hungry. In this week's Torah portion, this is magic, because this isn't this week's Torah portion. I did not plan it this way. But there were higher powers that allow me to bring to you this verse from this week's Torah portion, all about food. They said to Moses, we remember the fish that we used to eat free in Egypt. And remember, fish, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. I can guarantee you, and this is just a fact, that what has distinguished Jewish cooking is leeks, onions, and garlic.
Really?
But we'll talk about that if you ask me the right question.
No pressure.
By the way, think the story of, and I'm just throw this out at you. Think, who is afraid of garlic?
I was just saying other than...
Now, let me continue. Now, there are many cookbooks out there, and they're all wonderful. The ones that you have are the best, except that this is the one that you should get if you really want to know the intersection of Jewish law, cooking, and Jewish cuisine and history. Is by Rabbi Gil Marks, who I just found out died a few years ago. He was only in his 40s.
Oh, wow.
And he was ordained at Yeshiva University. He has several books. This one is called The World of Jewish Cooking, more than 500 traditional recipes from Alsace to Yemen. I am sure that you have better recipes than this book, but you don't have the history. So this book has the history. And I brought it because if you ask me a question that I don't know the answer, I will look it up. Rabbi Marx writes, the central feature of Jewish cooking in the diaspora is adaptation. The history, economics, geography, and climate of each area in which the Jews settled determined what produce was available and what sources were at their disposal. After 2,000 years of evolution, in almost every country and culture, Jewish cuisine is the cuisine of the world. But if Jewish cuisine is the cuisine of the world, what makes a dish Jewish? And it makes it because it follows the halakha, Jewish law. Not only in the kosher piece, and I'll have a good example if you ask the right question. If not, I'll have it ready anyways. Following halakha meant that the Jews could not simply adopt all the dishes in their new homelands. Since the dietary laws exclude foods like pork and shellfish and lard and the mixing of milk and meat, Jews found substitutes for these items. In addition, the Jewish lifestyle, shaped by Shabbat and the Jewish holidays and the prohibitions around that, will make the base for all our traditions. So, uniquely Jewish dishes will do so based on the Jewish and on the local foods, but often manifested similarities in the Jewish dishes from other parts of the world. So, with that in mind, see if I can answer any questions. We have maybe some questions online, but if there's a question in here, just say it and Leslie will repeat it so the people at home can hear it. We practice this, don't worry about it. We got it. So any questions?
You said that the three main were onion, leek, and garlic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Where was falafel originated?
That's an easy one. That's an easy one. In Israel, basically, in like the Levant, Lebanon, and the land of Israel. So
it truly is a cuisine of that area.
yes.
Yes, sir. How old is halva? Challah. Sorry. It's because I love halva and I want dessert.
How old is challah?
Challah.
Wonderful question, Corbin, right? Asked that question. Actually, Corbin, it's among the oldest Jewish foods. In the book of Numbers, by the way, that's the one I have prepared, because I knew somebody was going to ask a question about challah. I mean, thank you, Corbin. So in the book of Numbers, actually next week's Torah portion, we read the following. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat of the bread of the land, you shall set some aside as a gift to Adonai. And you're like, wait a minute, how is this challah? Well, in Hebrew it says, Reshit arsotechem challah tarimu.
Wow.
So challah means that portion that you set aside from the bread that you bring to an offering to the temple. And so originally, the challah means simply a portion. And so when the temple stood in Jerusalem, people would bring offerings to the temple. And there were two types of challah. The one that you took from the bread that you would bring, and it was burned. And then there were 12 loaves representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And those were called chalot, or sometimes in English, shewbread. The bread that is showed, displayed. All right? Now, the tricky part is that challah did not look like it looks today. So it was flat bread, more like pita bread. So the challah, the way that we use today, is from the 16th century, and it comes from Germany. And that's how the bread they did it. But the important thing is challah is always made with wheat flour, white flour. One thing that Jews in Eastern Europe added to challah, which was not the original and it was not in the Torah, is what? Eggs. Thank you. So in the German tradition, challah does not have egg. It's fluffier. You can still get it if you go to Israel, when you go to Israel and you go to the bakery on Erev Shabbat, you will find all kinds of chalot. You'll find the kind of heavy Eastern European, and depends, again, Eastern European, it's a problem because not everything is the same. Mm-hmm. If you're from southwest Poland, there's an area of sugar beets, so things tend to be sweeter there than in southeast Poland. Southeast Poland is Galicia, and so if you have any Galicianer in the house or your ancestors, so things are less sweet. This goes also for the other big thing from that area, which is gefilte fish. But good question. Thank you. We have another question here.
What is the story on gefilte fish? Is it only for Passover? And I would add, is it forever?
I'll tell you the story. It is not for Passover.
Oh, not at all for Passover.
It's actually for Shabbat. And actually, what happens with gefilte fish is a very interesting story. And it is actually, you have to know halakha to understand why gefilte fish became popular. Now, we're going to get technical to a certain level.
I await with bated breath.
So, there are 39 categories of things that are forbidden on Shabbat. And they all derive from the 39 activities listed in the construction of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle.
Right.
There are 39, and they're called melachot in Hebrew, which means tasks. It's not work. One of them had to do with how the dye that was used for, we'll get them there. The dye that was used for the curtains in the mikdash was processed. And when you did that, you have to separate the refuse, the things that you didn't use from these natural dyes, when you were created.
Plants, yeah.
And that's called borer in Hebrew. It means to sift through things. That is forbidden on Shabbat.
Okay.
So, what is gefilte fish?
I feel like this is a trick question.
No, gefilte fish, originally gefilte fish was the following. The problem with the food that we eat on Shabbat is that you have to be able to eat it on Shabbat without violating any prohibitions against Shabbat. One of them is that you can't cook things on Shabbat, right? So that's why a lot of the stews are very popular, because you put them on the plata, as they call them in Hebrew or in Yiddish, which keeps things hot for the entire Shabbat, so you don't have to worry about it. If you eat, in this case, when this started in the German lands, pike, it has a lot of bones.
Yes.
You are forbidden to take the bones off the fish on Shabbat. You cannot pick the bones from the fish.
Wow.
All right? Gas borer. So the poor women, basically, had to separate all the fish beforehand. And what do you do with that? Well, originally, they reconstructed it. They took the skin of the fish.
Of course they did.
All right, and then they make it into a paste and then refill the fish. So then when it was presented, it looked like fish and you can eat it. However, you didn't have to pick anything because everything was ready to go. Then they realized that the skin wasn't needed anymore, so they did it without the skin. But that is basically why gefilte fish is a Shabbat meal, which is, of course, Shabbat means that it's Shabbat and Yom Tov, because you couldn't do that on Pesach either. But Shabbat is a more complicated thing. So the fish was one of the most common. But it's kind of a late development because the number one protein until the 17th century among Jews was, and you're all going to get it wrong, but go ahead, say it.
Fish?
No. Goose.
Oh, you're right. I was never going to say that.
So, yes, chicken is a very late addition. So, and then, of course, if you were in the German lands, you will have mostly beef, which was not available so much in the East. Is there a question from online?
So we do have one question online.
Oh, well.
Are we good? We are multi-access here at Beth Torah. The question might come from a person sitting next to me, but it still counts because it was commented on Facebook. Why did the rabbis determine from the verse that cheeseburgers are not allowed? Is this up for debate?
No, revote.
Why? So why?
You
I
explain
know what
because
he's
this
saying.
is
I know what he's saying.
I need
So
to translate. The
verse-
wife needs to translate. So
The verse says, "You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk."
Right.
Our cheese comes from a cow, and our beef also comes from a cow. Neither come from a calf. A kid is not boiled in this, and it's a kid, right? None of this is goat. So the man sitting next to Aviva, who I don't know who he is or where he came from, wants to know, like, when literally,
All right.
how do we get from a
I
kid
will
to
answer
a
the
cheeseburger?
question by saying that it's basically simply because it looks like it. That's the only reason. But it's really not a question about cuisine. It's a question about kashrut, and we're talking about cuisine, not kashrut.
Oh, I have a question about cuisine.
Thank you. Cuisine, not kashrut. I can talk about kashrut, but that's
So-
not the topic. Sorry, mister.
Garlic, onions, and leeks, and this has just been bothering me the
Yes.
entire time since you said that. To my unsophisticated palate, a leek and an onion is very similar. Is there any historical reason that both of them were kind of brought in together as
I'm glad you asked this
complementary
question.
flavors?
Many years ago, I bought a book. It's one of my favorite books. It's called Garlic and Family.
Okay. This is not planted. This really, I just now thought of this.
It's called Garlic and Family. And it's basically a book about all the things that are related to the garlic. And the leeks are related to the garlic, and the onions are related to the garlic.
Okay.
Now, the problem with the problem with translating Hebrew words into these words, we can never be certain
Okay.
that 3,000 years ago, a garlic looked like what we think a garlic looks today.
Fair.
All right? Because scallions are also part of that family.
Right.
And there are different kinds. By the way, if you watch our Passover Seder, we had the War of the Scallions as part of that. But no, going back to the garlic, in the Middle Ages, the non-Jewish people thought that garlic was evil. And so
Really?
they thought it was the most disgusting thing. And the Jews used garlic for that. And the other thing that the two more things that the Jews brought into Western culture, cuisine, and with this within, and those are artichokes. And the next one? No, they're not Jewish. None of, I think you're clear. Nothing is Jewish except for maybe challah and charoset. That's the only two things. Eggplant. Right? And the eggplant actually, and with this we conclude, is the one thing that you will find in pretty much every cuisine across the board in the Jewish cuisine, from Morocco to Iran to Vilnius to Yemen. Everybody makes one dish that has eggplant.
Yeah, well, I think it's often a meat substitute. Like, not really, it doesn't taste like meat, but often when you find a meat dish and an eggplant dish.
Well, that's a good point. So in Eastern Europe in particular, it was actually a substitute for dairy.
Oh, interesting.
Yes,
So-
not for meat.
Okay.
Because
you know what? I'll ask my questions later. I have so many more questions now.
When you take the eggplant, okay, eggplant, there are many varieties. Depends which one you use,
okay.
all right? So, but when you take the meat out of the eggplant and you process it somehow, now of course they didn't have a KitchenAid in those days, but they will do it. It is the consistency for some things is like the dairy, which it was a no, right? Because you couldn't have any of the other stuff before that.
I don't cook eggplant anymore.
No? Okay.
Oh.
There's a story there. So, in conclusion, and I conclude with words again from Rabbi Mark's book. After all is said and done, what is Jewish food? It is food that evokes the spirit of a Jewish community as it celebrates its festivals and its life cycle events. It is a dish that conjures up the joy of millions of Shabbat dinners, or resounds with the memory of the Melach, the Jewish quarters, the ghettos, and the shtetl, in which for millennia Jews struggled to eke out a living. Shabbat shalom, everybody, and happy eating. Maybe inspire someone to cook something
I'm so
this
hungry
week.
now.
This week. We continue together in the concluding prayers on page 591. So we join in reading together. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. On page 595, we prepare for our moment of remembrance. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. You're joining us on Facebook Live and you are remembering a loved one. We invite you to type their name so we can all see them. We are, as a congregation, observing Shiva for Corinne Rope, mother and mother-in-law of Cliff and Stacy Rope, and Shloshim period for Charlotte Cohen, mother and mother-in-law of Susan Cohen and Mitchell Krasnopoler, and Phyllis Lensky, cousin of Judy Weingarten. And on this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzites of members of our congregation: Rita Balo, Beverly Banks, Madeleine Capel Chapman, Max Cohn, Peter Dale, Todd Epstein, Ethel Firestone, Louise H. Goldstein, Gertrude Klinock, Helen Koffler, Joseph Aaron Cram, Ben Rosenthal, Delvin Rothman, Irving Schlachter, Clifford Schlesinger, Irene Schulman, Isidore Schaefer, Caliph Shaw, Leon A. Smith, Alvin H. Strauss, Eve Turner, William Weinling, Rose Weingarten, Viola May Watt Worthington, Albert Worthy. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. On page 598, we join together in Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabba, ve'alema divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, bechayechon u'vemechon, u'bechayei dechol beit Israel, ba'agala u'bizman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'le'alemei almaya, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודש בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בלמה וימהו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה לחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימהו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו Amen.
Time for some announcements. Special thanks to Leslie and Joel and our technical team for joining us in beautiful service. Tomorrow morning, join us for Sichat Shabbat at 9 a.m. on Zoom. Our next Shabbat service is tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. on our virtual platforms. We are celebrating man's, woman's, person's best friends, dogs, and Havdalah, Saturday, June 12, our first Mazel Tov Havdalah. Do bring your dogs, please, to the CVT backyard for a blessing and a treat. And we will also take the moment to remember our dogs who are no longer with us. This unique Havdalah will be live streamed, of course, and we're also asking that you, your dog's in attendance, goes without saying, but they need to be on a leash, and they need to be up to date on vaccinations.
Yes.
And we're also asking that you bring a new toy to donate as part of this. We're collecting new toys. New means your dog has not chewed on it before.
Don't bring us the toy that your dog is tired of. Bring us a new
Or
toy.
the rejects.
You know, maybe if your dog is tired of a toy, you'll meet someone in the
There you go,
at
there you go.
Havdalah, and
You
can
can
do
do-
an
you can do that too.
exchange as well.
So just a reminder to everybody that privacy health care regulations don't allow us to get information directly from hospitals or nursing homes. So if you would like us to know, you kind of have to let us know. Maybe you can ask a friend or a family member to call us when you go to the hospital or a nursing home, or maybe add to your instructions, call CBT rabbis if you have emergency instructions.
And next week is shockingly June. And that means we're moving to the first and third Tuesdays for our song session. So June 1st, Tuesday, June 1st, 7 o'clock on our virtual platforms. And then on the third Tuesday, which I believe is the 15th, we're going to have our first ever in-person and virtual song session. This room is very big, so I feel like we can space out. I don't think very many people are going to come out on a Tuesday night. So the three of you who are here, I am sure we can space out, and then it will also be virtual for those of you who prefer to watch from home. 7 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Leslie. We conclude together on page 625, singing Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yetzir Nivra, Le'ed Nasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Ve'hu Yeh Betifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Ve'hu Yeh Betifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Betifara, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Betifara, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Betifara, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Oved, Betifara. Adon Olam. One more thing, don't forget to grab tonight's to-go-neck after the service.
I'm a terrible person.
Thank you to Jeff and Sharon Altman for sponsoring tonight's to-go-neck in honor of their 44th wedding anniversary, which is tomorrow, May the 29th. Please reach out to Aviva to learn more about how to get your to-go-neck and become a sponsor. T-O-G-O capital letters, oneg. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Take care of each other out there.